Well, just when we were all about ready to throw in the towel, West Virginia beats a ranked team at home. And I have to tell you, man, they're not dead yet. We're going to talk about just that and this game recap episode of Mountaineer Moment. West Virginia knocks off BYU 79-71 at Hope Coliseum. It's a good day to be a Mountaineer. Let's talk about it. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome in everybody to episode 157 of Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And it is indeed a good day to be a Mountaineer as West Virginia gets another quad one win, a ranked win at home against AJ Dybantsa and the BYU Cougars, 79-71. And we're going to get into this game. We're going to talk about this truth, and we're not going to get too high because there's still a long way to go, but this team is not dead yet. That's just the reality of it. We're going to talk about what this team did on the offensive glass and just incredible effort from Belo and Chance Moore in this one late to seal the victory. We're going to talk about this offense a little bit that's turning some heads over the last couple of games against Oklahoma State and that loss and in this win against BYU. Has this offense figured some things out? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about this defense and a stellar performance in the first half and able to do just enough in the second half to withhold BYU from coming all the way back and winning this one. But we'll start this one with BYU and their incredibly talented offensive players that they have. AJ Dybantsa, obviously all-around player, potential number one pick in the NBA draft in a couple months. And then Rob Wright was really, really good. This is an elite 1-2 punch, nation's leading scorer, and then a point guard who's averaging 18 points a game. Elite scoring, elite shot making. I firmly believe that, depending on matchups and stuff, they could easily, obviously, lose in the first round of the tournament. That's why it's called March Madness. But I think they could be a tough out because of these two pieces. They miss Richie Saunders, 18 points a game with his torn ACL, a heartbreaking thing there, but they're still really good. AJ Dybantsa, Rob Wright. So you got to tip your cap to those guys. Dybantsa looked frustrated at times, especially in the first half. I think he only had 4. Finished the game with 20. Rob Wright with 23. But again, these two are just these two are really, really good. And BYU went on a stretch, and we'll talk about this, extensively throughout this episode. They went on a stretch in the second half as they're trying to make a comeback where they made like 8 or 9 shots in a row. Those guys obviously involved as focal points in the offense. But it was a welcome sight for West Virginia offensively to not give up a ton of ground when BYU just goes crazy as far as their shot making is concerned. BYU scored 45 points in the second half, but it wasn't enough because West Virginia's offense continued to do things and have timely buckets, and Honor Huff, leading the charge there with what he did. Belo leading the charge in the, all over the court. Chance Moore, incredible energy and effort from him all night long. DJ Thomas in the first half, really strong performance. Jasper Floyd did some really great things. It was a total team effort for West Virginia. And, let's be honest, in Big 12 play, previous games to this one, another offense goes on like a 8 or 9 straight field goals made stretch. Like West Virginia, it ain't going to be looking pretty good. It ain't going to be looking good or pretty. But West Virginia's offense, while they didn't do that, they crashed the glass. They were able to get second chance opportunities and cash in on them, and they were able to, withstand the push that BYU made. I just finished recording with Mountaineer Paul at Locked On West Virginia, and we both acknowledged the fact that this was a very different game over the course of the 2025-2026 season for West Virginia. This was in a league of its own as far as like how the game was played. We've grown accustomed to lately West Virginia getting off to slow starts, and obviously they had a 14-point lead at halftime, so that wasn't the case. And we've grown accustomed to them having to crawl or dig themselves out of a big deficit, and this time they led for the majority of the game, and they were the ones trying to hold off a late push from BYU, and it got really close. Dybantsa started doing his thing, and he cut to 2 or 3, and West Virginia continued to have an answer. So you got to give him credit. And Mountaineer Paul and I talked about this too. As bad as the last week and a half has been for just feeling as you're watching those games, NCAA tournament hopes, all of that 3-game losing skid, and it was brutal. And, there's no denying that. There's also no denying the effort and intensity and, just how much you need to give credit where credit's due kind of thing for this team and their performance they had against the 19th ranked BYU Cougars, who again just so happened to have, I don't know if you heard on the broadcast, they said it a bunch of times, he could be the number 1 pick in AJ Dybantsa, and we saw why. Scorers, guys that just have a knack for scoring, they'll often have games where it's like, well, I didn't see him do that much, and they have 20, 25, 30, whatever. Dybantsa, he did a lot. 7 of 15, 20 points, 7 boards. Just 1 assist, which was big. They talked about that pregame, that he's been passing it really well. And when he dishes and finds teammates, this team is hard to beat. And when his assist numbers are lower, they've lost their last 2 games, now 3 games when he's limited in the assist department. But he got off to a slow start, a little flustered, a little angry with refs and with everything. And yet he still finished with 20. I don't know if you know, but I've mentioned it probably a couple times, I'm a big Sixers fan, and Joel Embiid is similar in the regard to he can just roll out of bed, wake up, and give you 25 with ease, getting to the foul line, making jump shots, making the 3. He's just an incredible talent. A lot of times he'll start games first quarter or play the first 12 minutes, he'll have 15 points, and you're like, where did that come from? You didn't even know he had that many. Dybantsa is a scorer that has that kind of knack too, where it's, how quickly he can go on a little spurt, and before you know it, he's in double digits, before you know it, he's at 20. And this wasn't his most aggressive game, and it wasn't his best game, but he still finished with 20, just to point to how good he is. Second point that we'll get into, as you can see on the outline on YouTube, West Virginia's defense leading to offense, that triggered things a lot in the first half, especially as you jump out to a 14-point lead. I mean, BYU, I believe they said, went 7, maybe the last 8 minutes without a field goal made. I don't know if they've done that this season, but maybe not. West Virginia's defense really, really executed and played well to close out that first half. And then, you had to know that a push was coming in the second half, but your offense played well enough for you to be able to win this game. But in that first half, man, you could see the team, running out, energy, effort, steals, blocks, whatever, and it led to points. It was defense leading into offense, which is when this team is at its best. I do think tempo-wise, West Virginia obviously a team that likes to slow it down, but they've been running a little bit more lately. I think tempo-wise, the decision-making of Honor Huff and the decision, Honor Huff had 5 turnovers. I don't remember all of them being fast break opportunities kind of thing, but Jasper Floyd especially, I guess, knowing when to push, knowing when to slow down, knowing when to chew the whole clock, especially late, right? This West Virginia team was going up against a red-hot offense who was right on the doorstep of taking this game and taking the lead and leading to another heartbreak for you. But Jasper Floyd, Belo, Chance Moore, Honor Huff, just timely things happened in that second half for you to get this win. So definitely proud of this team for their resilience. And, it was, a unique circumstance that they hadn't been in this season, where you're the one holding the lead and trying to keep the other team from coming back. It just felt, especially in Big 12 play, that just hasn't really been the case. And going up against a 1-2 punch like Dybantsa and Rob Wright makes things even more difficult. So now, thirdly, as you can see, this West Virginia offense, back-to-back games where offense hasn't been an issue, quote-unquote, because, there's been performances in Big 12 play where you're scoring the 50s, and you're like, what in the world was that? Or you go 2 for 22 from 3, and you're like, what in the world was that? Not the case tonight, and, have on the outline that shot making is contagious, and that's what we saw. To me, that's what we saw against BYU. everybody got involved, right? Bilo with a timely three down the stretch. I don't know what he shot 7 of 14 from the floor on the day, but like down the stretch, man, he might have been 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, something with nice touches off the glass. And then he stepped out for a three, assisted by Honor Huff. He made that one. Honor Huff 3 of 10 from three. DJ Thomas in the first half, he knocked down 2 of them, 2 of 4. Chance Moore made 3 out of 4 from the free throw line. You might be like, that's not that big of a deal. That is a big deal. Chance Moore struggled at the line all year. This team has struggled at the line. They went 17 of 22, 77% from the free throw line. We'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday, man. Like, that was really, really big, and you needed all of those. You needed all of them. And so you made your free throws. You made 8 threes, 8 out of 25, 32%, which isn't crazy, but enough to get the job done, against a BYU team who can really shoot the ball. They went 9 of 24 from three. They shot 47% from the field. You shot 44%. But that'll lead us into where I want to go next, is just the effort element of this thing. A lot of times you can see effort in a box score based on offensive rebounds, and West Virginia had 18 of them tonight. 18 offensive rebounds. 18. Chance Moore had 3. Brennan Lorient had 7 offensive rebounds to go along with his 18 points, 3 assists, 9 total boards, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I mean, he was unbelievable, especially down the stretch. And again, those two were the primary defenders on AJ Dybantsa, Bilo, and Chance Moore, who I'm sure were tired and feeling it right now. But the effort that they played with engineered this West Virginia win, and being able to hold on in the second half for the 8-point victory. So offensive rebounding, without that, this team doesn't win. Without the effort, they don't win. Without the free throws being made, they don't win. Without those DJ Thomas couple first half threes, maybe they don't win, right? There's a lot of things you can chalk this win up to. And, for the first time, I don't know, I could look, maybe it was last game, but it hasn't happened often in Big 12 play. We know that because, they don't score very much. But West Virginia had 5 guys in double figures. Bilo 18, Honor Huff 19, Jasper Floyd 11, DJ Thomas 13, 5 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, Chance Moore 11 points, 8 boards, 2 assists in this game. So, and you needed all of it. So really, really encouraged by the balanced attack that West Virginia had. And Eagle staff struggled, 1 of 8 from the floor, but he did a couple things. He made a 3 that, if you don't have, who knows how this game ends out, but super encouraged by the effort, the intensity, and the way that they brought it in. Obviously that first half with the scoring and the defense, and then second half being able to hold them off, because BYU has come from behind a few times this year, came up short a couple times and has won a couple times, but you were able to hold them off for a much needed win, which is what we're going to talk about as we round out this episode of Mountaineer Moment. Again, episode 157. Hit that subscribe button, please, and join this growing Mountaineer Moment community. But 79-71, the final score from Hope Coliseum. Big picture things that we're going to talk about, and the simplest way to say it, and then I'll give greater context, and we'll get a little hypothetical. I said I won't go and do that too much more, but they've sucked me back in, and maybe you back in too. West Virginia 17-12. They are 8-8 in conference, same record as BYU, by the way. So you're ahead of them in the Big 12 standings. And you got a couple games to go against 2 teams that you've beaten already. You go to K-State on Tuesday, Manhattan, Little Apple, and then you're back home on Friday night against UCF. And so there's a chance for you to get to 10 wins, 10-8 in conference play, over 500 in conference play. There's a chance for you to knock off 2 teams that you've already beaten. There's a chance for you to get another quad 1 win against UCF, a team that's in the tournament field. And so if you think about it, just those facts that we've just stated, or potential facts if they get it done, West Virginia's last 3 games. BYU, you beat them, they're in the field. You go to K-State, a team that's obviously not having a year that they were wanting to have. And then after K-State, you get UCF, who's in the tournament field. you could end your season with 3 wins in a row, and 2 of those coming against teams in the field. And again, I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get our hopes too high at all, because this, tournament started tomorrow. Selection Sunday was tomorrow. You're out in every selection. But tournament doesn't start tomorrow. Selection Sunday is not tomorrow. It's still 2 weeks away. And over the next 2 weeks, you have 2 more opportunities. Then you get the Big 12 tournament. And if you're big on just standings, looking at the Big 12, West Virginia currently 1, 2, 3, 4, just want to make sure, 5, 6. You're currently tied for 8th place. There's a 3-way tie between BYU, West Virginia, and Cincinnati, all 8-8. And by the way, West Virginia's 3-0 against BYU and Cincinnati. Swept Cincinnati, beat them twice, and BYU obviously just beat them. So you think about that, and West Virginia the conference tournament started tomorrow. Well, they're in possession of 8th place, and that would get them a bye in Kansas City. Same place that they finished last season, by the way, in 8th in the Big 12. But there's potential here. Well, the reality is West Virginia controls their own destiny, obviously, if they're in 8th right now, to get finishing the season in the top half of the Big 12. And as I speak right now, Baylor and UCF are in the first half. Baylor's got a 9-point lead on the road against UCF, who could fall to 9-7, which would be 1 game ahead of West Virginia. But you still have a date with them next Friday, and so you win that. Then you win out, and including a win over UCF. There's a path, believe it or not. TCU's 9-7, but there's a path for West Virginia to finish the regular season at 6, at 6 in the Big 12 standings. While that might not be likely, there is a path for it because they're in 8th. UCF, who might lose, and if you're watching this or listening to this, you would already know the result of that game, but they might drop one to Baylor. And again, you still play them. And TCU's 9-7, a game ahead of you. They have obviously a leg up on you because they beat you, and so that might be certainly is less likely. But you could finish 7th. And, obviously you at the end of today, again, I'm kind of silly for saying it right now because the game's over by the time you're going to listen to this, but you could control your own destiny if UCF loses again, whether it be Baylor or whoever they got before they play West Virginia. You can control your own destiny to number 7 in the Big 12 standings. How about that? That's pretty significant. Now, all that to say, and we're getting super hypothetical. I said I was going to do a little bit of it, but we're getting super deep into the weeds. And I offered the same question to Mountaineer Paul on Locked On West Virginia. Tomorrow's March 1st, and West Virginia's got K-State, you got UCF. Let's just say they win both of those. You finish the regular season 19-12, 10-8 in conference play, and no worse than 8th in the Big 12 standings, possibly 7. And if things really, really aligned, you could get 6. You head to Kansas City. You get a first-round bye because of this. And in that next game, you could play anybody at this point. Everything's a logjam, especially in the middle. Right? You might get a BYU or a Cincinnati or a TCU or a UCF. That could be your first matchup. Or it could be someone at the bottom. If there's an upset, that can certainly happen too. Anyway, my question that I offered Mountaineer Paul was you finish 19-12, you finish 10-8. Let's say you beat one of those teams that I just mentioned after your bye on Tuesday. Yeah, I guess Monday or Tuesday. You win that game. So all in all, you've won 4 straight. If you're tracking, you beat BYU, K-State, UCF, your first matchup in Kansas City, you win that. And then you got a date with like Arizona or Houston or Iowa State or one of those really top tier teams. if you're there, does that become a must-win game for you to get in the tournament? Because that's a daunting task. Or would the argument be that you did enough? You went 10-8. You won a game in Kansas City that you were supposed to win or needed to win, and then you fell to one of the top teams in the country. Good effort. I think you'd be sweating on Selection Sunday. So I'm not going to answer this one, but just something to think about as we get super hypothetical. I will say this. I mean, if you do that and then you go knock off a Houston or Arizona, which is so much easier said than done, it's not even funny, then you're positioned to be in the tournament. I will say that. So just something to monitor with a couple games left in the regular season. But, tonight was the starting point of that. This team is not dead yet. And, not to put a percentage on it or anything like that, but there's an uphill battle before us, and we know that. K-State could beat us, and then it's like, okay, now you got to go win the conference tournament. Like, you could lose both of the next two games. You could lose one of the next two games. You could lose the next two, and then you could lose your first game in Kansas City. It's the Big 12. Anything can happen. But if you want to somehow, some way keep a pulse alive on your chances in March, it had to start with a win against BYU, and it did. And so you got a big one coming out on Tuesday. They're all big at this point. They've been big recently, and you've squandered opportunities. But now you're back in the win column. You get win number 17. You can inch closer to 20. You can't get to 20 in the regular season, but you can get to 19-12, 10-8, and that should be the goal at this point in time. Finish the regular season strong, and then get to K-City and see what you can do there. But for episode 157, Mountaineers knock off the 19th ranked BYU Cougars to get to win number 17. And again, by the way, 8-8 in conference play, which is something. And so that's significant. And now you got 2 games left with 2 teams you've already beaten. Handle your business and let the chips fall where they may. Uphill battle for sure, but we're going to be covered here on Mountaineer Moment, giving you all the things that you need. Next episode will probably be a Kansas State preview between West Virginia and K-State coming up on Tuesday night. So come on back to Mountaineer Moment, and we'll give you a preview and a post-game reaction and analysis to that one after it goes final. But we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment. Thanks for being here, and let's go Mountaineers.